please hit that subscribe button. Hey everybody, better suited to win the Stanley Cup this season. If you are new to the channel, Washington Capitals, the Boston Bruins.
Locked on and he scored! And we're live.
Hey everybody, so we have a trade to talk about from yesterday. It wasn't a huge one, but it is notable. The Chicago Blackhawks have traded defenseman Olli Maatta to the LA Kings in exchange for forward Brad Morrisson. So interesting deal here for Chicago and LA. Olli Maatta, obviously a defenseman for the Blackhawks, or was a defenseman for the Blackhawks, who at one time was thought to be a good young defenseman with a lot of upside potential and a chance to be a really good top four offensive D-man. Unfortunately, he's never really turned into that, and now he's on his third team. Went from Pittsburgh to Chicago, now Chicago to LA, and his value is really falling here as his career goes on. And Brad Morrisson was someone that I had to look up. I had never even heard of. He's a 23-year-old forward who spent last season in the ECHL, where he had 19 points in 17 games. He was originally a fourth-round draft pick of the New York Rangers, but doesn't really seem to be a guy that's ever going to be a NHL player or someone who's a regular in an NHL lineup. So what was this deal for? It was a cap dump. This deal was a cap dump by the Chicago Blackhawks to get Olli Maatta's contract off the books because he is making over $4 million per season and has not lived up to that contract and has not become the player that many people expected him to be when he came up into the NHL with the Pittsburgh Penguins. From a Chicago standpoint, obviously it's important for them to get this contract off of their books and away somewhere else. But this is, obviously they were able to do that with the LA Kings. And for LA, people might ask, why would LA make this deal? LA's in a situation where this is pretty much a no risk, potentially a high reward type deal for them. LA's a rebuilding team. The Kings are a young team that's going through a rebuild. Their defense right now, by NHL standards, is abysmal. And this is just it's giving them a chance. What's the worst that can happen here for the LA Kings? They can take on contracts like this because they are nowhere near the salary cap. Salary cap is not an issue for the Kings right now at all. So they can take on contracts like this because they're a rebuilding team. And what's the worst that happens? Olli Maatta comes in and is absolutely terrible. Just sucks. Awful. Then you just waive him. You just waive him and bury his contract in the minors, and it's nothing. Or maybe you waive him and someone else for some reason claims him. Then good, you get rid of him. Okay, it's a non-issue for them. You're not giving anything up. You're giving up an ECHL forward. It's not a big deal. Not somebody who's ever going to really make an impact at the NHL level. There's really no risk here for the LA Kings. The reward, however, is what if Olli Maatta starts to turn things around? What if Olli Maatta goes to a team like LA where there's virtually no expectations? The pressure is off. No one expects him to be really good at this point, and no one expects the Kings to be very good. So the pressure is off now, and maybe he just gets a chance to sit back and just play. And maybe he does start to get his game back on track and turn back into that Pittsburgh Penguins Olli Maatta, who did have a lot of offensive upside and a lot of potential. I mean, Maatta's a guy that when he came into the league, people were very high on. He was expected to be a top four offensive D-man who can, quarterback a power play, score goals, move the puck, and just be a good top four guy. And that never really materialized. He had some good seasons with Pittsburgh, but then it started to go downhill. He ended up in Chicago, and he was not very good for Chicago. And injuries have played a big role in that. He's really, really struggled to stay healthy. There's a lot of defensive deficiencies in his game, and he never really broke out offensively the way that a lot of people thought he was going to when his first couple years in the league. So it's his value has plummeted, as you can see. This is a guy who just got traded for an ECHL player, who's probably never going to make the NHL. So his value has absolutely plummeted. It was a cap dump move for Chicago, and now the pressure is off. Like, no one's expecting anything from Olli Maatta with LA. And, this is a chance now for him maybe to save his career, if he can start to play well and get things back on track. But if you're the LA Kings, there's nowhere to go but up from here, because if he's any worse than he has been, you're just going to bury him in the minors and waive his contract, and it's not going to be a big deal. No one else is going to take him. And if it does work out, then you could potentially get a surprisingly solid defenseman out of it if you're LA. So I completely understand the move from their perspective. I completely understand Chicago wanting to move his contract and get him out of there. And, he's just a guy that's really struggled. And I've never been a huge Olli Maatta fan, but he's really, really struggled the last couple of years. And we're seeing the results of that now, where he's being traded for, just to get rid of his salary. And, we'll see how he does in LA. Obviously, we don't know yet. We haven't seen him play, but I certainly wish him the best and hope that he gets his career back on track. But, we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But that was the trade from yesterday. Olli Maatta to the LA Kings. Brad Morrisson back to Chicago. Cap dump move for the Blackhawks. And they have moved on already from Olli Maatta. So with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, our donation link, Patreon, and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.